So I'm going to start with the common mistakes made by entrepreneurs new to tech. So the first thing is that there's a whole kind of emotional side to entrepreneurship as well. And we'll talk a little bit about this because it's good to be aware of it. So some of the extremes, I'm sure you're probably going to be more in the middle, but some of the extremes I see are people that are either immobilized because they're so worried about getting started. So I've spoken to somebody who actually has been working on their idea for 10 years. That's the longest time. Versus people who kind of think, oh, you know, probably nothing to it, and just sort of jump in without doing any preparation. So they're like two real extremes. The other thing is acting based on assumptions and guesswork. So what I've learned from working with entrepreneurs is that often people have an idea in their head about how they think things are going to work, and often that's nothing like the reality. So it's like they're basing what they're doing on a foundation that doesn't exist, because what they think is going to happen and what they think they should do is completely incorrect in some cases. So I'm glad you are all here, because obviously you want to learn and you want to find out, you know, the do's and don'ts. So do just keep educating yourself, because what I find is that sadly that leads to a lot of avoidable and unnecessary mistakes. So there's a lot of things that go on that didn't need to happen in the first place if people had a bit more knowledge of the best ways to proceed. So also as well, try to seek help a bit in advance and think a bit in advance. So not kind of just looking for help once things have actually gone a bit pear-shaped, but kind of proactively trying to think, right, okay, I'm moving on to this next step, kind of lay the foundations again. But at each stage, there's going to be lots of learning. So just making sure that you keep learning and preparing each stage, kind of just diving straight into it. So why do these mistakes get made? So again, going back to the whole psychology of it, and try to be aware of this when you kind of go into these modes and patterns of thinking. If you have a co-founder, speak to them about it, and both of you kind of pull each other out of it. Or if you're working on your own, just kind of be aware of some of these things I'm talking about. Like, oh, Kay mentioned that. I'm not going to fall into that trap. So often what's happening is people are thinking, well, more is better. That's why they want to build more functionality. But actually what it is fearing the moment of truth. So actually, even though people may not think it consciously, they're actually afraid of that moment of launching. Because at that moment, you find out whether it's a success or not, don't you? And actually, that's very scary. So if I keep building and keep building and keep building, I'm doing something, but I'm actually avoiding finding out whether I'm going to fly or fall. So that's, you know, it's very psychological, but this is what people do. So they're building more, and they're also hedging their bets, because they think if I stuff, then surely some of it, people are going to like some of it. The other thing is going with the gut. So you can't go with the gut forever. You can start your business by going with the gut, that you believe something is going to happen. But remember, that's a scientific hypothesis. The biomedical scientist will know about that. And also if you've written dissertations, you know, you start with a hypothesis of what you believe, but you then need to question that. You don't then take it as gospel truth. So again, you need to kind of self-regulate to keep asking yourself, right, that's my initial gut feeling, but what evidence and facts do I have to suggest that this is really the case? So if you do that, you're going to keep yourself on track throughout the whole build of your product. But if you stop asking that question, you could just be in a totally different direction. So the other thing is difficulty prioritising and making decisions. Sometimes the entrepreneur's vision is so huge that it's actually really difficult for them to bring it into something that's smaller. So they can kind of see the big picture, but they don't know how to chop it down and have difficulty making decisions. But my view, having spoken to so many entrepreneurs, is that this is all down to insufficient research and lack of customer knowledge. Because all of these arguments could be countered by knowing your customers very well. If you know what your customers need, then you don't need to build 2 or 3 years worth of functionality. If you know what your customers need, you don't need to go with your gut, because you know what they actually want. And if you know what they need, then it's going to be easier to prioritise. So these are all symptoms of not having done enough research, basically. So keep going back to that research and making sure that you know what you need to do so that you make the right decisions.